What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Greezy, and today we're going to go over how to reinforce in Rainbow Six Siege, a guide for you. So I really want to go over this now when I got into a video today and start something a little bit different than just operators. Because especially when you're new to the game, there's a lot of information to take in, a lot of new things you're going to learn and that you're going to see, and it's a whole different experience than 99, if not 100% of games out there. So I mean, it's still a first-person shooter. You get the guns. Some guns have recoil in other games, but not kind of like Rainbow Six. But the big difference to Rainbow Six than other games is the fact that you have soft walls or floors that can penetrate with a bullet or explosion, or that you can just completely blow up. And also a different thing in the game is what's called reinforcement. So you can walk up to any soft wall and you'll be prompted to put a wall up. So what that does is it makes it so this wall isn't soft anymore, and that way you can't do that and shoot through it. You can't explode it unless they have on the D or attacking team operators that are what are called hard breeds. So they might see Thermite, Habana, Maverick. Now there's Ace in the game as well. But right now we're going to kind of go over the reinforcement side when you're on defense. So the big thing you want to do is when you first load into a game Rainbow Six, you're going to get 45 seconds. I'm not sure how long it is in newcomer when you first get in. I'm not sure the rules there. But when you get into a game, you're normally going to have 45 seconds to do what's called prep phase. So you can set up the sites, the area, the room you're in, the other rooms you're in. So when you play, majority of the time it is going to be bombs. So you're going to have two different rooms that have a bomb in it. That's Pro League. That's going to be ranked, unranked. Even newcomer, you're going to be playing bomb. So you want to make sure you kind of get used to what are setups and what you should be doing. So when you first load in, what you should be reinforcing is where you think is going to be an important wall. So you want to make sure it's something you can hold that's important, that the other team can't get in, but also isn't going to hinder your team from trying to stop them as well. So basic reinforcements you'll see, especially on the map when you get newcomers, you're going to be playing 3 different maps unless they've changed that. It's going to be this map, Consulate, you're going to have this map, Bank, then Consulate and Chalet. And so on this side upstairs, it's one of the most common sites you'll play. It's called CEO. As you'll see on the compass, it'll tell you what room it is. It's going to be CEO and the Executive Lounge. So usually they're going to call it Lounge, or some teams have different names for it, but it'll be CEO and Lounge a lot of times. And this site, you want to think about where you want to hold and make sure they can't push in to get easy lines of sight to anybody that's going to be playing in this room, or if they are going to be playing in this room. So you want to think about which wall. So majority of the time, you always want to make sure you get this wall reinforced and this wall reinforced. Because when you look at it, you know there's going to maybe people can rappel up. They're going to maybe try and hold these windows. But that's not going to be a huge deal because you have people that might play in here, or you always can play over in a different part of the site. That way you aren't going to get shot easy. And sometimes as you get better in the game, people will put a rotate here or put a hole in the wall. That way you can move through and get away from those windows. But a lot of times they're not going to be playing on that because it's a good spot to play, but it's not going to be the best advantage because when they try to get into the room, they have to rappel in. And at that point, they're going to be very vulnerable to anybody that's going to try and shoot or throw like maybe a C4. So you might try and throw that at them. Anything like that, they're going to be really vulnerable to that. So it's not terrible to worry about that, but you also can make sure you want to pay attention to those windows. But you don't want to make sure they don't want to get these walls. You don't want them getting these open, because then they can sit back way over here. Let me go over and show you. And they're going to have an incredible line of sight so they can see the entire A-bomb and B-bomb just by sitting over here. That you might even sit back here, and they're going to see all of that. So you want to make sure you get these walls reinforced because they're very important walls to you holding those sites. So you want to think about that on every map you go into. You want to make sure you get those reinforced. And as you go and you play ranked, you play unranked, you'll start learning different ways of reinforcing, which walls to reinforce, which ones not to. But when you first start out and you get into the game, honestly, you want to make sure you just reinforce any wall you can that you feel is important to the site. Okay. So you walk up, you'll do this, you'll hit F. On Xbox, you'll hold X. Or PlayStation, I believe it's a square button. But you're gonna get up here and you're gonna make sure you reinforce the wall. Each operator gets 2 only, so you can get an entire wall usually. This one though, I believe takes 4. Yeah, I believe it would be 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4. So that'll hold 4 walls, but normally you're gonna have one person do that wall, one person do this wall, and then you want to think about where else you want to reinforce. So a lot of times you don't want to reinforce walls that are between the sites. You don't ever want to do that unless you're trying to have a place where you can kind of sit to make sure you don't get shot. But this also, you want to not sit here because it is vulnerable to the walkway over here, to the doorway, to people that will be on windows. So you don't ever want to really reinforce walls between the bombs either, because that way you're going to hinder your team from trying to stop people planting, or you're going to make it so that you can just pretty much what's called give them the site. So if you reinforce that wall, and if your team had reinforced these, and say you got that entire wall as well, and then that was reinforced, you literally just given them this site essentially, because you might have someone sit in here, but all they have to do is kill the one person, and then have someone rappel, shoot these bandit batteries off the wall if you have him, or if they don't, just open the wall, and then they have this entire area to not worry about, because they can just cover this doorway and this doorway. So you never want to reinforce walls between the two bombs. You always want to make sure you reinforce around the bombs, or in places that are going to make it so that way you can hold them better and defend the bombs from a better vantage point. So I'll go make sure I go over another side as well. We'll go over another bomb. I believe we'll go over one more map as well, just so you can kind of see the difference in how some maps look, and that way you can try and take away from what we've been doing and take it to other maps as you play and you get into the game, because a lot of these sites can be very similarly set up, because they're always going to be pretty much rooms next to each other like this. So you want to make sure you just want to reinforce around the bombs and not ever between them, because you don't want to make sure they can't have only one way of killing you, or say there's 2 ways that they can kill you. You want to be able to make sure you have a chance at maybe shooting through the wall, or if they try to push up and plant, you can open up a line of sight yourself, and that way you can see through it now as well, instead of having that be a solid wall that nobody can get through, and you're making yourself have to be vulnerable when you try to stop the plant. But we'll go over another side on this map here. I'll jump down into the basement and we'll go over that side as well, just because it is a little bit more different of a site, but it can give you some ideas of how you would play other maps as well, defending bombs. Alright, so now here we are downstairs in the site of lockers and the CCTV site. So this, again, on this map now is going to be the second most played, if not the most played, besides CEO we went over a minute ago. And this is one of those bomb sites on a map that it's going to be like I was mentioning, where it's going to be a little different of a setup, a little bit weird. But you'll see as you play how people reinforce. But again, it's kind of the same idea. You always want to reinforce walls that are around the bomb. That way they don't have an easy way of getting in, or have an easy way of just opening that and getting good lines of sight. And then from here, you want to make sure that you are never going to reinforce walls between sites. Now, there is a strat you'll see as you get better in the game. People will put a reinforcement right here on this wall, and then they'll bring the character Myra, if she's available to play. Then they'll just shoot out this wall up high, and that way you have the mirror here so you can see through it, but they can't see back into you, and then you can cover this as well. Then they'll put a rotate hole here, or just put a hole in the wall here so you can shoot through it. If you have a C4, you can take it and throw it, and that way you can try and deny plant. But this is kind of those weird sites where you can put a reinforcement between the sites, but you never want to reinforce both these walls, or anything like that, because that way it can stop you from having a chance at getting between the two sites. So in these situations, you want to try and maybe do this just so you can have that spot to sit, try and help stop plant, because as you play the game, you'll notice a lot of times, 90% of the times, they're trying to get this wall, or if not both of them, open, and then plant right here the bomb. So at that point, you want to have that wall open so you can throw the C4, because if you throw it and it lands anywhere over here, it's going to kill this person trying to plant. So you always want to have something like that set up. But again, it's going to be one of those weird sites where you can put a reinforcement between sites, but you never want to cut off the sites again. So normally from that point, you'll have the rotate up here, or if you don't have the mire, sometimes you might put one down low so you can walk through the sites, but usually it'll always be up high right here. And then you can either have someone with a shotgun shoot out, rotate there or here, or have someone with grenades. You can throw their grenade and impact it, and it'll open the wall. That way you can crawl through it. If you want to have a walking rotate, have the guy with the shotgun shoot it up a little bit higher so you can run through it. And at that point, you'll be good. And then you want to make sure you want to think about above you from this point. So once you've kind of seen how it works out, this is kind of one of those sites you'll notice a lot of people don't necessarily reinforce all around the site because it's not really all that necessary, because if they have a chance of getting down in here, downstairs, it's going to be really hard for your team at that point to win the round. So on this sort of a site, you want to make sure you look above you more often, because this, since it is the basement, they're going to have these hatches, they're called. So these can be shot out if they're left soft. So a lot of times on this map especially, you want to make sure you do get these hatches reinforced. You always make sure if you're on a bottom floor or like a first floor where you have a floor above you, always look and see if there are hatches above sight. So you always want to make sure you really reinforce these hatches if you're able to. It's not the end of the world if you don't reinforce this one or this one, but you really want to make sure you definitely get that one as often as you can. This one's not terribly important because at this point, if they decide to drop this hatch, they're in a kill box. Literally in a kill box. Nowhere else they can go. They can't go back. They can't go up unless they're playing Amaru. And so they have a lot of places they have to worry about they drop. They have to worry about vault. Maybe someone's in here. They have to worry about someone there. Someone there. So it's really a difficult spot. So this one isn't the end of the world not to reinforce, but you always want to think about that. And then you want to look at over here. So this one's going to be very important to make sure you get that reinforced, because that's going to protect the person that you probably have playing either here. Maybe you have someone playing here. But it's going to protect this whole area, so that way they just can't drop into sight and start going off. And then this one also, you want to make sure you really get that one, because it's directly above the bomb. So making sure that this stays reinforced as long as possible can be really helpful. So when you go upstairs, I'll show you where these ones are. You always want to kind of make sure you walk around the map, learn where they are. But these will be the two reinforcements, that one that looked down the hall. And this is the one that was right above the bomb. You see that's right above it. And you want to make sure you get these reinforced at this point as well. So usually when you're playing the game, as you get in ranked or in unranked and you get higher up as you play, there's always going to be something that says, I got hatches. You'll hear that call out. So if you don't hear anybody see that, or you don't see someone like running up the map to go get them, maybe you should think about going to do that yourself as well. But that's something you want to look at as you play on different maps. What hatches could be important, which ones aren't important that you don't have to worry about as much. So reinforcing can definitely be a very difficult topic, you could say, because a lot goes into it. It's a very strategic part of the game, what walls are or are not reinforced. And so you want to make sure you really want to think about that as you play. But a lot of times the best way to start is just to think about reinforcing around the site. That's the best way to start. And then from that point, look at the map itself. So like here, as we're talking about over here in that elevator, down here in this shaft, you can think about places maybe you don't really need to reinforce, because like we said, if they try to come down through this, it's not definitely going to be the most advantageous point for them. They're going to have a hard time trying to push. So reinforcing that wall or that wall isn't all that important. Like maybe you could reinforce this wall, just that way they can't sit on the staircase and shoot through it or open it up and have a line of sight. But again, it's not going to be the end of the world if you don't reinforce this wall or that wall. So as you go through the process, you look around the map and the site to see which ones could be good to reinforce, which ones may not. From there, if you're on the bottom floor, first floor, or if you have a floor above you with hatches that you can get to, always look up from there, see what hatches could be ones you might want to reinforce or need to be reinforced, and keep going from there. Then as you play ranked and you play unranked, like we said, you'll start learning more strats, or if you just maybe start thinking about getting into comp and being a competitive player, trying to go for like Challenger League or the Pro Division, you'll start really getting strats where people start putting reinforcements in completely odd areas that you wouldn't think to do when you're playing yourself. But that's because they've set up that strategy, or strat they call it, to help make sure they can move through the map and defend it in different levels or different increments as they move through the round. But I'll go over another map, one more map here a little bit quicker after this, so we can just give you another idea of what some maps look like and how you'd want to reinforce them as well. Alright, now here on a second map, this map is called Consulate. This is another map you'll see in newcomers you start getting into the game if you're newer to it. But this is another good map you want to look at as well. So this has got an example of where you want to reinforce a wall that is a necessary reinforcement every time you play the site, because this wall is a wall that's from outside to inside. So you always want to reinforce walls like this if you're playing the bomb sites for specifically. So like right here we have a bomb that is down here in the garage and one back there. So you always want to make sure if there's a wall that is like that goes from outside to inside, always get it reinforced. And you can always maybe do with operator if you want to bring someone like Bandit that's electrical to help a little bit more denial. But this is a wall you want to get reinforced just so it does help your team try to delay as much time as possible. So it's not really a wall you'll always see get held. If you can hold it though, especially if you get into low ranks, silver, gold, you'll probably be able to bandit trick relatively easy sometimes. But with ace coming out now, you'll just kind of have to see how it goes. But this is a wall where it's an example of you always want to make sure these get reinforced because you don't want to make it too easy for a team to be coming through and just get into sight and have all this open area to play with at this point. And then you guys all get stuck either trying to play back here behind the pillar, behind the white van, or worst case scenario, you get pushed all the way back into this part. That way you're not going to be getting shot. So you always want to look at that sort of thing. If it's a wall that's outside to inside, and if it's on the site, or if it's close to it on some maps, where it's like if this was an open garage area, no, there wasn't a floor above it, but the site was over here, up in this room. Like say if the bombs were up here, but this wasn't a actual floor, this was all open, and that was down there just like is a little walkway, and you have an open garage. You'd want to get that reinforced. That way it isn't another easy access point for them just to open up and then come running up the staircase to get. So you always want to look at that sort of thing where you have a wall that goes from outside to inside, so they don't have an easy way of getting eyes on the site, or if they just can't run up, bring Ash or Zofia or Buck or Sledge and just destroy the soft wall really fast and be inside the site in the first 10 seconds, 15 seconds of the round. And then it's another example of where you want to make sure you look above you. So see here, we're on site, and this hatch is right above it. So this would be a hatch you want to must reinforce. And then same with this site, there's one right here. These are must reinforce hatches at that point. Then you can go, like we said, look around the map, around the site, what walls could be good to reinforce that are around, and then look up. So over here, there really isn't much you really need to reinforce because again, it is kind of bottlenecks as they start coming down. They're gonna come down the stairs, and then they have to come down a hallway where you may have someone sitting playing here, or you have someone that is playing back over here. There could be, they might have their shield up here on this playing, and so they're putting themselves in a bottleneck coming down that. But you'll see a lot of teams sometimes they might put one wall up right here on this wall. So that way if you do have somebody that sits in here to play like your Maestro or Echo, they can sit in here, maybe smoke. That way they are somewhat protected. That way if you get a sound cue or someone calls it out, they're not just going to have an easy death sitting in here getting wall banged. They'll have this they can come up and play off of. See they push down, because that way if you don't have somebody playing over here, or they maybe this person moved, they don't have just this free walk down into sight. But at this point, like you see, there aren't many walls that are around the site. So from here, you want to look around as you go, look up and out. So we have the one that looks out, look at that one, then get the one that goes up, and then from there you can kind of see as you play where you like to put them. Maybe you'll put one here, since this would be a 3 wall, one here, and one here. You can put just one wall up. That way you'd be able to have something to protect you, and then you'll see people put a wall up. So they'll do this on this middle wall. Have someone with a shotgun open up a little hole right here, and that way you'll have a line of sight you can play. And then if they have maybe a smoke or you have like your C4, you can just lean over and you'll be able to throw it right out and try and deny plant. So that wasn't a very good throw for that, but it's just an example of how you would play these kind of spots is back here. So if we were to do that, we'll open this up a little bit more. And then what you do from back here is if you're able to, you might even get up here on this. Usually you are able to, let's see it. So you can get right up on it. And then you'll be able to have an angle so you can watch if they try to push over here to black car. Or you can watch over here. See if they want to push up behind the pillar. But at that point you'd have a spot you could sit here. And then you'd be able to throw a C4 out and try and help deny plant at that point. So you just want to make sure you kind of see how people play. Some places do that. A lot of times teams will do this on this wall, maybe on this wall as well. They'll put one maybe right here and then put a rotate either down low or up high, so you have to vault through it. And then again, you don't want to ever want to reinforce the walls between sight, because you don't want to cut off sights. That way it's, especially on this kind of a bomb site where it's here, then you have the one doorway. You never want to make it so there's only one way in and out of sights. Because say if you reinforced all of this, and then you guys didn't have somebody over here playing back here, or if there wasn't somebody playing in this hallway to watch, and they just decided to come through back here, decided to pop this hatch or the hatch over there, and then just walk in here, you literally now at this point just gave them this bomb site out of the two, and all they have to do is worry about someone watching right here, and you have someone come over here and plant, then they're going to be out of way of being shot. You have somebody back here that just kind of sits back and watches the doorway, have someone sit over here and watch this hallway, or have them rotate up around and sit back here and watch it for anyone trying to push. And that way you just gave them an entire site, so they have an easy hold. They can just walk right in, turn around, and plant the bomb. So you never want to reinforce the walls between sight. That's something I can't ever reiterate enough, tell people enough, because you'll see even when you get into ranked and you see someone like a level 150 you're playing, and you're like, why are you reinforcing this wall? So really want to make sure you remember that as you play. Never really reinforce walls between sight. You might see somebody come over here and like reinforce this wall, and then they'll have a rotate right here. But that's because when you rotate this, all you're doing is making it so if someone does pull back behind the door behind me, you have a rotate right here usually. So if that's open, that way they can't just sit back here maybe if they push up and then just shoot right here, because if they shoot there, it's going to be an easy shot to whoever you have that's probably either playing right here in this corner that's playing, waiting, or if you have someone that's down here trying to play to help deny plant, and that's going to protect them. That's going to be something you'll see as you play, something you'll maybe put into strats, and then you'll open up a little hole right here. That way you have another way to get in and out of this site and moving into that side, or going from this site to this side. So that's just another example I want to go over. And as you play, if you have any maps from you want me to go over though, let me know down in the comments section below. I didn't want this video to run too long. I was trying to cover as much as possible, but I didn't want to have it be like a 30-minute video running over maps and going over sites and what to reinforce, what not to reinforce. But if you have any specific map you want me to go over, or maybe some strats you'd like to see, if you feel like maybe you saw something that you would have done different, let me know down in the comments. But we'll keep it the next time. Keep it easy, keep it breezy. It's your boy Greezy. I'm out.